Good morning, everyone. Our reading today is from John chapter 13, verses 31 to 35. When Judas was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, I am going, and you cannot come. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. We trust in you, Lord. In your word we have hope."
Thanks, Jinky. I'm wondering if you've ever been at someone's either last moments of life or conscious moments of life, lucid moments of life, or whether you've happened to be around at a time when someone's gathered you around for what they know will be their last real chance to say goodbye to you before they leave this world. I've been there a few times. It's a really, a small number of times. It's a real privilege to be invited into someone's, last space, last moments. And I wonder if you've ever thought about what it is you might say, assuming that you are not taken by suddenly or a nasty accident or something. Have you ever thought about what your lasting legacy might be through words or through moments? If the time was close, you might have been given a diagnosis. The signs are there, you just know it in yourself, that your time's coming. And whether you gathered people to your home or your hospital bed, who would you have there? And what might you say? What would you want them to remember? What would you want those people to carry? What would you want written on their hearts? Perhaps for the rest of their days. About you? About life? Would they be words of encouragement? Would they be words of challenge? Would they be words of gratitude? Would they be words that you hope might guide those who are gathered beyond your time here? I ask you this because that's kind of what's going on in today's passage. The disciples are gathered with Jesus for a meal, and they're having this kind of directed, if you follow the book of John, there's a number of conversations and actions that go on that are quite intentional. And in our passage this morning, Judas has enacted his betrayal. He's left the room. He's on his way. Jesus can see the end of the tunnel, or the end of his truly human existence. There's this strange little part where Jesus talks about himself in the second person, the him sort of stuff, and it gets a bit tangled up with the him. Who's the him in the centre? Is it God? Is it Jesus? Is it I don't know. But Jesus sort of claims this, well, not so much claims, but names this sense of glory. It's a Johannine thing. It turns up in John. It doesn't really turn up in the other Gospels, but there's this real sense in which John has this, what we call high Christology, this sense of Jesus and God being, it's really clearly there in John's Gospel. So the Son of Man is going to glory and is going to be glorified and through God the Father and through this enactment that's coming up, through the suffering, the death and the resurrection, which Jesus knows are on his doorstep. That's where God's glory is going to be shown. And that's where Jesus will find his glory, in his suffering, death and resurrection. Kind of reminds us that God is often found in the places of life where we're vulnerable, not where we're exercising strength. Jesus turns to his followers and shares what become some of his few last words while he is fully human. Words that Jesus is well known for. So what does Jesus say? Well, I actually want to start with, for a moment, with what Jesus doesn't say. Because what I'm about to share is some of the things I think the church has carried on as if we were at Jesus' last meal, and this is what Jesus made sure we clung to and held on to and kept and held dear. As if these were the last words of Jesus. Things like, hold on to your moral purity. That's how people will know that you're my disciples. Hold on to your moral purity and make sure you hold that as a standard for everybody else and judge them if they can't keep to it. That's how people will know you're my disciples. How's that going for us? How's it gone for us? Not so good. Make sure you hold on to your denominational doctrine. And make sure you know how to argue it against other people from other denominations and other faiths. Make sure you get yourself into as many arguments online as you can to let people know that you're right and I'm right. That's how people will know you're my disciples. I often joke about this one. I say sometimes it's almost like Jesus. I talk about Jesus' resurrection and his last words on being resurrected, but here are his last words alive. It's almost like Jesus said, oh yeah, I came back. What I forgot to tell you was, hate the gays. Make sure you make life as difficult as you can, because that's what I really hold to. That's been the most important part of my ministry. That's been the thing I've spoken about the most, and I'm making sure you remember it. Hate the gays. That's what you'd think a lot of churches hear as the last words and the most important words of Jesus. Or what about keep women in their place? It's almost like Jesus said that, isn't it? You know, in a lot of places. It's almost like you get this sense that Jesus made sure that there's a few smiles around the place. I'm glad in our church we have a very different view and a different understanding of how Jesus shared in ministry and Paul shared in ministry. Or what about, did Jesus say, make sure you defend your rights? That's the last and most important thing you've got to remember, is that your rights as an individual are upheld. Your right to an opinion. Your right to carry a gun if we were in the US. Make sure you go to your death defending your rights. Did Jesus say on his deathbed, make sure you read your Bible every day? Make sure you pray every day. Now, they're great virtues. I'm not saying we shouldn't do those things. But what I want to make clear here is that they're the oomph behind what we are called to do and be every day. They are not the goal themselves in terms of knowing if you're a disciple of Jesus, or for others knowing we're disciples of Jesus. Because what Jesus does say, what Jesus' deepest desire for his followers, for those who want to be known as followers of him, disciples of Jesus, the one thing he wants them, the one thing he wants us to remember and to hold on to carry, to let be our guide, the final words that Jesus shares in this intimate space with his disciples, as intimate as your own deathbed. The words he wants us to enact. For the sake of us, but for the sake of the whole world, Jesus wants us to love one another. And Jesus is saying, this is a new commandment. This is a reminder. This is, I'm getting you to retake up something that you may have lost along the way. And let me tell you folks, if you know it as well as I do, that this is as countercultural today as it was then. Because Jesus isn't talking about this kind of sickly sweet, pleasant, polite, nice, smiley kind of love. And that's where it ends, kind of love. I'm a nice person, which is great. But Jesus' most deepest desire for you and for me is much more gutsy than that. The reason why it's new is because if lived out, it's earth-shattering. Right through this passage this morning, the Greek word that Jesus uses for love isn't a word that equates to nice or lovely or, smiley. It's the word agape or agape. You say tomato, I say tomato. Agape. Which it's intentionally used. And Jesus is saying, this is the love that I have lived out in front of you. This is the love that I experience with God the Father. This is the love that I am calling you into. Is this love agape? Which means an unconditional, self-sacrificing, deep, costly, no boundaries, no judgment, no, I'm here and you're there. It's this kind of love that says, I see you. And my interest in faith, my interest in business, my interest in public life, my interest in politics is not how can I raise myself up or what's in this for me, but it's a love that says that I can see you and I will live and act for what I can do for your benefit. It's a love that's not based on trying to conjure shame or fear or guilt It's love that doesn't start with chastisement. It doesn't end in punishment. But instead, it's a love that says, regardless of the cost for me, or regardless on the work that I have to do within me to get past the differences between you and I will count you as valued. You are loved. You are valued by God, by me. Now, I know we see this all the time around here. Again, I'm only calling you into something that I think a lot of you already know. And I see so much of this love being lived out. Okay, we don't always get it right. I'm aware of that. But here's the thing, that I feel like we're following as best we can. And I feel like you are. Like the stories that I hear from you often sort of help me along my way. An encouragement to me. But I've seen you. I watch how you love. I just felt, for some strange reason, I've been sitting with this image all week, and I'm going to name it. Like if agape love, true love, is Wendy Jones with her elbows up to her elbows in dishwater on a Wednesday, washing up after ends meet, going through all the dishes to getting them ready for the dishwasher. And Wendy is here, like Wendy comes she's there most Wednesdays. And I'm not saying that there's not other tasks that people don't do. Like there's a whole range of things. And I could raise up so many people in this room for the things that we give in love. But for some reason this week, that's the image that sat with me this week, is Wendy up to her elbows in dishwater, washing up over and over. And it comes at cost for Wendy. You know what I mean? That's the kind of example, that's a small example that I look at and go, that's love. It's not for self-glory. It's more than an act of kindness. Because Wendy is looking at all the people in the room, all the people in the kitchen who have already been working so hard to get a meal on the table. And she's seen all the people who come along. It's not like you and I have had this conversation, Wendy, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's just for some reason I've just been led to to share this story. But there's a real sense for me in which there is this, like Wendy gets into the kitchen and works hard to make sure that the rest of the day is easier for those who are doing the clean up, and that the people who have had a meal it's a way of caring. And that's, I guess, what Jesus is saying. I want to go bigger now. I want to go back to the bigger story of this. Like we could fill the rest of the afternoon with stories that come out of this room of people who give at cost. And I'm glad we remember this. I'm glad we remember this commandment. I'm glad we live it out. Because what Jesus is saying to us is this sense in which I have shown you how. I've shown you how to love. I've lived it out in front of you. And let this be your mission. Let this be your evangelism. Let this be the way that you tell my story to the world. By loving one another. People will know. People will see it. People will see that this is, that you're a follower of me, of Jesus. But secondly, they will look at you and say, somewhere in there, this person has found something that looks like life, something that looks like hope. We're not a congregation who stand on street corners. We're not a congregation who I think are able to define who we are by who we've managed to exclude. I'd like to think we're a congregation who are living this sense of love with a view on the rest of the world around us, on our community around us, and giving and serving as we can. And that, my friends, is countercultural. That, my friends, looks to me like a group of people who have been there at that most intimate of times and have heard the command to love, to agape, to give. Friends, there's so much in our world that works against it. We're working against the tide, we're working against the stream. We're not the only ones, but we are a community of people who take this seriously enough to keep going this way. And that's my word for you this morning, my word of encouragement, my words of kind of guiding and leading as I can, is that we will each one of us continue on this path, regardless of what the other voices around us are saying, and choose to live, to abide in this sense of love, one act at a time. That we will dwell in this place that love comes from, the source of love in our lives. Which is shown to us in Jesus and empowered through us by the Holy Spirit. This call, this commandment, this very nature of God. Love. So today, I'm sending you, we are a people who are sent, I'm sending you, when we finally get to go out the door, with these last words of Jesus. That you've been called into this intimate space, these last few words, to be told that you are valued, to be told that you are loved, and to go and make God known in your own life, in our communal life, and in the world around us through agape, through love. That's the new commandment.